had companies like, for example, East African Breweries, we have Kenya Airways that got onto the exchange quite early, that is in the 2000s, in the early 2000s. And Bank of Baroda is one of those companies. Incorporated in 1969, and it as a subsidiary of Bank of Baroda India, this bank is one of the leading banks in Asia with over 2,750 branches in over 17 countries, and the bank has been in operation in Uganda since 1953, and when it began an overseas branch as Bank of Baroda. Subsequently to its operation, the government of Uganda acquired 49% shareholding stake in the bank, but then the remaining 51% Bank of Baroda was left to Baroda India. And Bank of Baroda is one of the main international banks in Uganda, with 6 branches around the country, offering a range of products including savings and current accounts, custodial services and brokerage, and as well as investment advisory. When you look at the Bank of Baroda stock, they have been quite stable, yes, at 85 Ugandan shillings. Though looking back in 2021, their stock was quite much higher at around 120 shillings. And when we look even much further back in 2019, you're seeing that they had prices as high as 80, as high as 150 and 130 as well. But they dropped back from since 2019 up to 100 shillings and then 120 in the year 2021. And in 2022, they have been able to maintain the price of 85, despite a few little fluctuations we are seeing on the curve, especially around the month of May. But this is a company that is very well known for its very huge volumes, usually once in a while. And in the last 3 months, when you just look at their performance, they are the #1 most traded stock on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Remember, we had Stanbic come in the 2nd place. Well, Bank of Baroda is the #1 most traded stock. And I have to say, this is not due to daily performance. But when you look at Bank of Baroda, interestingly, whenever they trade, they have very huge volumes, usually. And on one instance within this quarter, from May 30th to the 31st of August, or to the 1st of September, Bank of Baroda traded a total volume of over 34.6 million shares. This makes it the most traded on the market. However, on a single day within this period, they had a total volume of over about 27.5 million shares that were traded on the 13th of July. Of course, this almost contributes about 80% or so, or 75% of the entire 34.6 million shares that have been transacted within this year. And this, of course, puts it among the most traded stock. And the total value within this period has been at 2.49 billion over the period. That's the total turnover of the period ended the 1st of September yesterday. And when you look at their market activity yesterday, they traded only 6,000 shares on the stock market. That was on the 1st of September. And they have also traded last on 19th of August, where they traded 400 shares. Then on the 18th of August, they still had 500 shares. And on the 17th of August, 5,700, and so on. So meaning they don't have, we don't see recent daily activity like we are seeing on Stanbic and MTN and other companies, but at least they do have a good volume that has been traded so far. And this definitely is one of our very great companies that we are hoping will influence the growth of the stock market in Uganda. That is the Bank of Baroda stock. Of course, its competitors include KCB Bank, you have Stanbic Bank, you have Centum Investments, and other people dealing within the financial services sector, but they're still doing quite well depending on how you see it. In terms of year to date, we might have to also notice that they have lost a little, about 11.0%, from 95.5 Ugandan shillings to 85 Ugandan shillings. And they are ranked number 11 on the Uganda Securities Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance for the listed equities on the Uganda Securities Exchange. This is Bank of Baroda. The number one most traded on stock, I've already explained that it's due to the fact of having very huge volumes on certain days that have driven their market activity or volume crazy, and definitely giving you the number one most traded stock. That's it from Bank of Baroda Uganda Limited. Thank you very much for remaining with us. We are still breaking down, analyzing the performance of companies yesterday. On the Uganda Securities Exchange, we have other companies that trade. We have a total of 18 companies. Now let's take a look at their current pricings. British American Tobacco at 15,000 hasn't had any movements within a while, and neither did it have any movements yesterday. Bank of Baroda, we have looked at that at 85 Ugandan shillings, whereas Centum Investment Company, cross-listed from Kenya, at 284.94 Ugandan shillings. Cipla, Quality Chemical Industries Limited, at 70 cents or 70 shillings, actually also didn't have any volumes that moved, and neither did have any changes in price. DFCU Bank, that is Development Finance Company of Uganda, at 547 Ugandan shillings, is currently also not very active. And then we look at East African Breweries Limited at 4,843 opening price this morning. East African Breweries came in as a loser yesterday at a 12.24 Ugandan shillings loss, and that was valued at that was about a percentage of 0.25%. Equity Bank Limited at 1,519.68, also lost by about 3.84 Ugandan shillings, but there was no volumes that were registered. Then Jubilee Holdings Uganda Limited was at 8,207 at the beginning of this market day, and they are also one of the losers at a 0.25% loss. Then we had Kenya Airways, who also lost a little, 0.3 shillings, to close the markets at 121.26 Ugandan shillings yesterday. KCB Bank at 1,298.06, also lost by 3.28, and MTN Uganda Limited didn't have any losses or any gains on their price. They maintained the price of 183.97. And then looking at National Insurance Company, National Insurance Corporation, at 5.8 Ugandan shillings opening price, didn't have any movements as well. Nation Media Group at 569.88 also remained at that price, but lost about 1.44 shillings. And then New Vision at 155 shillings is still trading within that price. And then Stanbic, as we have seen, 21 shillings after moving the market by 204,200 shillings. And finally, we're looking at Uganda clays at 17.90 Ugandan shillings, and lost nothing and gained nothing, as well as no volumes were traded. Wumeme Limited at 200.0. Yesterday, Wumeme was one of the gainers. However, today they maintained, yesterday but one, Wumeme was one of the losers, but gainers, but today it maintained the price of 200 shillings, Ugandan shillings for that matter, on the stock market. And that is definitely what we are seeing on the market here. Yes, of course, as the markets played out. At the end of this trading day, or trading session on the USE, a total of 210,200 shares, corresponding to a market value of 4.7982 million was traded. That is the value of money, only 4 million shillings. 798,000 was transacted. Compared with the previous USE trading day, Wednesday, the data shows an 81% decline in volume, like we've seen, not many volumes, and the current market capitalization is still valued at exactly 22 trillion Ugandan shillings. That winds up the market performance on the Uganda Securities Exchange. We're going to have a deeper analysis of the month and with Mr. Andrew Mwima later on the program. We'll be talking about the turnovers, the capitalization. We will be talking about the top movers within the last month, and we'll be talking about the way forward, what we should look up to on the exchange, and definitely get to invest wisely moving forward. Let's now cross over to Nairobi at Nairobi Securities Exchange. This is the principal stock exchange for Kenya, and it's stationed in Nairobi, the capital of Kenya, and is the largest stock exchange in East Africa. Now, yesterday's trading ended with over about 47 listed equities participate in the trading, ending the day with 16 gainers and over 20 losers. Regarding the performance of the Nairobi Securities Exchange All Share Index, we are seeing that it went up by 0.52, and the points are currently at 137.37 points, representing a 1-week loss of about 1.02% and a 4-week loss of 1.84%, but an overall year-to-date loss of 17.48%. Other remarkable indices that had some of the activity on Nairobi, we had the NSE 20 and the NSE 25 share index, and those are some of the top performers there on the Nairobi Stock Exchange. Now, amongst these performers, we had Liberty Kenya Holdings lead the gainers with a 9.85% gain appreciation in price, closing the day with a 7.36% Kenyan shillings per share, followed by the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Interestingly, the NSE is listed on the exchange itself, so it is a demutualized exchange with share capital, definitely, and so that is something we also look up to here in Uganda, probably having a company having the Uganda Securities Exchange demutualized, and probably someday gets listed on the Uganda Securities Exchange. Well, NSE, that is the Nairobi Securities Exchange itself, was among the top gainers yesterday after gaining by 5.26%. Diamond Trust Bank Kenya was also a top gainer yesterday at a 4% gain, closing the day. Then BK Group also came in as a gainer at 3.33%. And several other gainers were registered yesterday. The total was 16 of them that came out on top of the trading day. Then on the losing side, we had Sanlam Kenya, who came out with an end-of-day price depreciation of over 8.26%. and this closed the company's price, closing price was about 10.55 Kenyan shillings per share, whereas Longhorn Publishers lost by 6.65%, and Total Kenya lost by about 6.61%, and East African Cables lost by about 4.88% loss. Safaricom recorded the highest volume. This is the most traded stock, by the way, on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, and he traded about 14.3 million traded shares yesterday, followed by Equity Holdings, Group Holdings at 4.77 million, and KenGen, and as well as Kenya Power and Lighting Company at 792,900 shares and 719,600 shares respectively. Those are the top movers that we had. Let's have a look at Liberty Kenya Holdings, who came out at the top. Liberty Kenya Holdings, formerly known as the CFC Insurance Holdings Limited, is a Kenyan-based holding company offering life, property, and casualty insurance coverage. The company has subsidiaries including CFC Life Assurance Limited and the Heritage Insurance Company Limited in Kenya. Liberty Holdings is a strategic investor in the CFC Insurance Holdings Limited as well. Liberty Holdings is listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange under the ticker symbol LBTY, and it has, of course, the 28th most valuable stock on the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with a total capitalization of over 9.84 billion Kenyan shillings. And recently, we are seeing that this is a company that has been able to really perform well. On a weekly basis, they have gained by 8.55%, whereas on a monthly basis, that is the last 4 weeks, they have gained by over 23.9%. And in a 3-month space, they have gained by 33.8%. And in terms of year-to-date, they stand at 5.16%. Now, after closing the day yesterday, Liberty Kenya Holdings had about 7.36 Kenyan shillings as their closing price on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And this was after recording a 9.9% gain over the previous closing price of 6.7 Kenyan shillings. And Liberty, however, began the year with a price of about 7 shillings, Kenyan shillings, and has gained about 5.14% on the price valuation. And it's ranked the 21st on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in terms of year-to-date performance. Shareholders can be optimistic that Liberty has accrued a total of over 24% of value over the last 4 weeks as well, and is the best on the Nairobi Securities Exchange in terms of 4-week performance. We're talking about Liberty Kenya Holdings. It's one of the companies that has registered a very marvelous performance within the last month on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. And that definitely brings us to the end of the analysis of the Kenyan market. As I said, as an investor, you don't have to limit yourself. You can invest elsewhere in East Africa, in Africa, even across the world, because financial markets are borderless. You don't have to put borders around them. They are definitely something you don't want to actually be bordered by anything. They are broad and diverse. And the more you diversify, the lesser you have to take in the risk. Because as I said, these are risky markets that might, of course, lead to losses if not well invested in or without enough or sufficient information before investing. And of course, as I say today, we are having a guest from the Uganda Securities Exchange. We are talking about the performance of the stocks within the last 1 month. Recently, just a few days ago, this week on Monday, there was a monumental occasion that gave cheaper technologies, right to actually have a stock brokerage firm that will trade on the local stocks here in Uganda. Definitely, during this launch, the chairperson or the chief executive officer of the Uganda Securities Exchange, Mr. Paul Bwiso, noted with thanks that the number of investors in Uganda at the Uganda Securities Exchange has grown tremendously from 38,000 to 130,000 investors. He was speaking at the launch of the admission of cheaper technologies onto the stockbroker as a stockbroker in Kampala on Monday, and he said that they have registered a growth from the stagnant numbers that we had of investors, meaning people are actually realizing how important it is to invest money within the stock market. And definitely this gives us hope that even with more firms like now cheaper technologies coming on board, we will have more investors and definitely more young people especially come on board to invest. He said that the companies on the stock exchange have registered improved profitability. These are the words of Mr. Paul Bwiso. And he also said that they would want to see more deals on the market, and they still need to see increased dealership and reforms. He said, noting that the numbers have grown from 38,000 to over 130,000. The Uganda Securities Exchange has witnessed a growth of attracting over just 18 companies within the last 25 years. And another person who was in attendance of this event, Ms. Miriam Ikirapa Musali, who is the Capital Markets Authority Director, Legal and Board Affairs. She commented and said that a section of equity markets, such as the secondary market, has remained muted by government, but government was working on reforms to increase the activity, especially in the bond market. They say that they are in the process of amending the Capital Markets Authority Act, which says that this will be able to create friendlier laws for participants in the market. And definitely she wound up that day with a very promising quote. They are saying that, hey, we are going to have reforms probably in the Capital Markets Authority Act so that we have more investors, more friendly or friendlier laws on the participants, and be able to attract more investors. We're going to talk about more of that later on after a very quick break. Stay with us. We'll return shortly.